everyone, welcome to our bedtime story time for day 9. Today in Women and Science, I finally got my book back from Binks. He's not napping right now. We're going to learn about Maria Sibylla Merian. She is a scientific illustrator and entomologist. If you didn't know, an entomologist is somebody who studies insects. So it says she was born in Germany in 1647. Maria Sibylla Merian combined science and art to become one of the greatest scientific illustrators of all time. Think about how many of you guys love drawing, right? And then she has a job being a scientific illustrator, so someone who draws illustrations of different animals, insects, different things for science. Like, how cool is that? You guys could draw professionally, be artists who draw like dinosaurs based on the bones and fossils that you find. In the 1600s, Europeans did not have a basic understanding of insects. Most people thought that they were simply disgusting and not worth careful study. I could see that. I get that. Maria could not have disagreed more. At a young age, she started collecting insects to study how they behaved. Her stepfather taught her how to use paint, which she used to illustrate the different stages of her favorite insects' lives. Maria was particularly interested in butterflies. At the time, no one really understood the connection between caterpillars and butterflies. In 1679, she published a book on metamorphosis, filled with scientific notes and illustrations. So think about it. They didn't even know that caterpillars turn into butterflies, and then Maria figured out and wrote about metamorphosis and the transformation in a book, so she was way ahead of her time. Then Maria's life changed drastically. She left her husband and took her mother and 2 daughters to Holland. They joined a strict religious group that had ties with a Dutch colony in South America called Suriname. The mismanaged religious group fell apart, but Maria's interest in Suriname stayed with her. Curious about new insects at the age of 52, Maria braved the rainforests of South America. She documented never-before-seen bugs in the face of dangerous rain and heat. Unfortunately, her trip ended early when she contracted malaria, but she had already made the illustrations she needed to create her greatest book. Malaria is a disease that you can get from mosquitoes. So that's why it's important whenever we're in the summertime, or if now that it's getting warmer, we're by water, you really want to put on some insect repellent so you don't get too many bug bites from mosquitoes. The Metamorphosis of the Insects of Suriname was published in 1705 and became a hit all over Europe. Maria's work helped future scientists to classify and understand insects, and her beautiful, detailed illustrations amaze and educate people to this day. So on the page here, with the beautiful illustrations of her, it also says that she was one of the first and most important entomologists. She classified many new insect species. She carefully illustrated the metamorphosis of the butterfly. And then a quote from her down below, she said that art and nature shall always be wrestling until they eventually conquer one another, so that the victory is the same stroke and line. How beautiful. And then around the edges it says that people thought Maria loved bugs because her mom visited an insect collection when she was pregnant with her. People used to call insects the beasts of the devil. Maria observed and painted live insects, while others observed only dead ones in display cases. So at the time, they tended to only look at the ones who had deceased, but she knew that it was also important to look at them while they were alive. Although, let's be real, it probably seems safer to study the bugs that are dead than the ones that are living. Like, I don't want to get near the bugs. People used to think insects would spontaneously appear in garbage like magic, whereas we know now that's not true. Maria's portrait was on German money and stamps. Wow. Cocoons were once called date pits in Germany, and she handled poisonous bugs in the rainforest. Now, it's dangerous, but I think that it shows how important it was to her to learn about them. So once again, Maria Sibylla Merian, here we have a picture of her, and all of her accomplishments. As we embark on spring break, I think it'd be cool if, in her honor, we go outside and find some cool insects. And I don't suggest doing experiments with them, like Mason mentioned that his sister was doing in the driveway, but maybe we could do some illustrations of them and upload them to Seesaw. I'd love to see what you guys come up with, and if I find myself in my travels close enough to an insect, then I will do the same. So moving on to Desperaux, remember, we have taken a turn in this book. This book is made of 4 different books, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, there are 4 books in Desperaux. So the first book was called A Mouse is Born. Book the second is called Chiaroscuro. Chiaroscuro, it's with a K sound. It's Italian. And then the third book is called Gore, The Tale of Miggery Sow. And the fourth book is called Recalled to the Light. So all of them tie in together at the end, but we're going to shift our thinking from looking at Desperaux and his family to Chiaroscuro, who is a rat, and kind of see his point of view and where he comes from. So book the second, Chiaroscuro. I know that some of you need to see that word to know, and I looked it up. I will let you listen to how it pronounces it in Google. But what's really cool is that the author actually tells us what it means in the first page of the new book. So here's how it sounds on Google. Are you ready?
Chiaroscuro.
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 That is the name of the rat friend we're going to meet. Chapter 16, Blinded by the Light. As our story continues, reader, we must go backward in time to the birth of a rat named Chiaroscuro and called Roscuro, a rat born into the filth and darkness of the dungeon several years before the mouse Desperaux was born upstairs in the light. Reader, do you know the definition of the word chiaroscuro? If you look in your dictionary, you will find that it means the arrangement of light and dark, darkness and light together. Rats do not care for light. Roscuro's parents were having a bit of fun when they named their son. Rats have a sense of humor. Rats, in fact, think that life is very funny. And they are right, reader. They are right. In the case of Chiaroscuro, however, the joke had a hint of prophecy to it. For it happened that when Roscuro was a very young rat, he came upon a great length of rope on the dungeon floor. When it says that it's a prophecy, it means that it's kind of like telling the future. So if you hear a prophecy, it's something that someone thinks is going to happen. So by them naming him Chiaroscuro, talking about light and darkness together, then they've kind of, not like jinxed it, but kind of made a prophecy to where he is going to experience the light somewhere here, where we know is upstairs where Desperaux comes from. So we get some foreshadowing there about what might happen. Ah, what do we have here? Said Roscuro. Being a rat, he immediately began to nibble at the rope. Stop that, boomed a voice, and a great hand came out of the darkness and picked the rat up by his tail and held him suspended upside down. Were you nibbling on Gregory's rope, rat? Who is it? It's Gregory. Who wants to know? Said Roscuro, for even upside down he was still a rat. You smart alecky rat, nibbling on Gregory's rope. Gregory will teach you to mess with his rope. And keeping Roscuro upside down, Gregory lit a match with the nail of his thumb, and then held the brilliant flame right in Roscuro's face. Ah. Oh, I think it's more, ah, said Roscuro. He pulled his head back away from the light, but alas, he did not close his eyes, and the flame exploded around him and danced inside him. Has no one told you the rules? Said Gregory. What rules? Gregory's rope, rat, is off limits. So? Apologize for chewing on Gregory's rope. I will not, said Roscuro. Apologize. No. Filthy rat, said Gregory. You black-souled thing. Gregory has had it with you rats. He held the match closer to Roscuro's face, and a terrible smell of burnt whiskers rose up around the jailer and the rat. And then the match went out, and Gregory released Roscuro's tail. He flung him back into the darkness. Do not ever touch Gregory's rope again, or you will be sorry. Roscuro sat on the dungeon floor. The whiskers on the left side of his face were gone. His heart was beating hard, and though the light from the match had disappeared, it danced still before the rat's eyes, even when he closed them. Light, he said aloud, and then he whispered the word again. Light. From that moment forward, Roscuro showed an abnormal, inordinate interest in illumination of all sorts. He was always in the darkness of the dungeon, on the lookout for light, the smallest glimmer, the tiniest shimmer. His rat soul longed inexplicably for it. He began to think that light was the only thing that gave life meaning, and he despaired that there was so little of it to be had. So think about it. Just as how Desperaux did not conform to what mice are supposed to do, Chiaroscuro does not conform He does not do what rats are supposed to do. Even though they like the darkness and they live in the darkness in the dungeon, he likes light and he wants to find light. He finally voiced the sentiment to his friend, a very old one-eared rat named Botticelli Rimorso. I think, said Roscuro, that the meaning of life is light. Light, said Botticelli. Ha ha ha! You kill me! Light has nothing to do with it. What does it all mean then? Asked Roscuro. The meaning of life, said Botticelli, is suffering, specifically the suffering of others. Prisoners, for instance. Reducing a prisoner to weeping and wailing and begging is a delightful way to invest your existence with meaning. As he spoke, Botticelli swung, from the one extraordinarily long nail of his right front paw, a heart-shaped locket. He's swinging a heart-shaped locket. He had taken the locket from a prisoner and hung it on a thin braided rope. Whenever Botticelli spoke, the locket moved. Back and forth it swung. Are you listening? Botticelli said to Roscuro. I am listening. Good, said Botticelli. Do as I say, and your life will be full of meaning. This is how to torture a prisoner. First, you must convince him that you are a friend. Listen to him. Encourage him to confess his sins. And when the time is right, talk to him. Tell him what he wants to hear. Tell him, for instance, that you will forgive him. This is a wonderful joke to play upon a prisoner, to promise forgiveness. Why? Said Roscuro. His eyes went back and forth, following the locket. Because, said Botticelli, you will promise it, but you will not grant it. You gain his trust, and then you deny him. You refuse to offer the very thing he wants. Forgiveness, freedom, friendship, whatever it is his heart most desires, you withhold. At this point in his lecture, Botticelli laughed so hard that he had to sit down and catch his breath. The locket swayed slowly back and forth, and then stopped altogether. Ha, said Botticelli. Ha ha ha! You gain his trust, you refuse him, and ha ha! You become what he knew you were all along. What you knew you were all along. Not a friend, not a confessor, not a forgiver, but, ha ha, a rat. Botticelli wiped his eyes and shook his head and sighed a sigh of great contentment. He set the locket in motion again. At that point, it is most effective to run back and forth over the prisoner's feet, inducing physical terror along with the emotional sort. Oh, he said, it is such a lovely game, and it is just absolutely chock full of meaning. I would like very much to torture a prisoner, said Roscuro. I would like to make someone suffer. I guess they're rats, so we don't understand because we're not rats, but maybe this is where the meaning of rat comes from if you say you're being a rat. I would very much like to torture a prisoner. Your time will come, said Botticelli. Currently, all the prisoners are spoken for, but another prisoner will arrive sooner or later. How do I know this to be true? Because, Roscuro, thankfully there is evil in the world, and the presence of evil guarantees the existence of prisoners. So soon there will be a prisoner for me? Yes, said Botticelli Rimorso. Yes. I'm looking forward to it. Ha ha ha! Of course you're looking forward to it. You are looking forward to it because you are a rat. A real rat. Yes, said Roscuro, I'm a real rat. Concerned not at all with the light, said Botticelli. Concerned not at all with the light, repeated Roscuro. Botticelli laughed again and shook his head. The locket, suspended from the long nail on his paw, swung back and forth, back and forth. You, my young friend, are a rat. Exactly. Yes. Evil. Prisoners. Rats. Suffering. It all fits together so neatly, so sweetly. Oh, it is a lovely world, a lovely dark world. Woo! Chapter 17, Small Comforts. Can you tell the difference already between the first book and the second book? We looked at the mice, and I mean, it wasn't all good either for the mice, but now we're looking at the rats, and everything's definitely darkness and negativity and torture, and they love it. So it's definitely different. YouTube is going to kick me off if I keep reading. So we'll continue with chapter 17, Small Comforts. Even though Friday is our spring break day, I'll still upload one tomorrow for you guys. Okay? So I'll see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for our Zoom party, and then I'll upload the bedtime story. Bye.